This one is all about road versus trail. But I really want to kind of go over what are the key differences, and we've got 5.
Starting off with key difference number 1, which is terrain and stability. This is the most obvious difference. It's the surface that you're running on. In the city, we're often exclusively on sidewalks. Every once in a while, maybe we can get a little bit of grass.
Little gravel.
A little bit of that path next to the sidewalk. But when it comes to trail, it is a whole new level.
With road running, things that we come to expect, right? Smoother, more predictable pavement, some consistent footing. It's a lot easier to kind of settle into a rhythm and zone out, get into a flow, lower demand overall on balance, right? Because we're, especially somewhere flatter, we're moving just in one frontal plane, and you absolutely have a higher demand on your load rate because it's a hard surface. And chances are you might be running a little faster too.
So trail running can have a variety of surfaces, but there's often rocks, roots, mud, maybe sand in certain cases, and definitely uneven ground that you're navigating. This requires constant adjustments with each step. And it's not that you can't zone out on trail, because you can totally
It's a different zone, yeah.
It is a different zone. You can totally become encompassed with nature and just be in your own head, but you always have to be paying partial attention to where you're stepping. Trail running has a greater demand on your balance, your coordination, and your proprioception, which is your body awareness.
One thing I've noticed about flow on trail is, you do have to kind of always have your eyes floating. Where am I going to put my feet? Where am I going to put my feet? So I'm exhilarated after, but then also I'm I'm a little tired.
Yes, it's mentally exhausting. Yeah, for sure.
It's exhilarating, but I had to do a lot of thinking.
Yeah, so the key takeaway is that trail running challenges your nervous system as much as it challenges your cardiovascular system.
Second key difference is pace and effort, which goes along with number 1, right? One of the biggest mistakes runners do is that they try to compare the pace between trail and road, and simply put, they're in 2 completely different buckets. Road running, when we're thinking about it, especially somewhere like here in Chicago, it's a pretty reliable training metric, taking aside the weather, like in episode 249, where we go, all things dew point. If you haven't listened to that one and you live somewhere hot, please do. But for the most part, it's pretty predictable. Workouts are often written and based and executed on specific training pace targets.
Not the case necessarily with trail running. So effort matters a lot more than pace when it comes to trails. There's more hills and technical terrain that can just naturally slow you down. So you're not going to be able to clip your 5K pace on something that has rocks and roots and divots that you have to be paying attention to. Your heart rate or your perceived effort are much better guides when you are on trail than your pace on your watch.
Yeah, and this is just a really good thing for anyone that dabbles in trail. I think sometimes we have runners that go out to trail and they get discouraged or frustrated by their paces. And key takeaway here is a 10-minute trail, a mile, let's say, trail run, or even slower, might require the same effort or even more effort than, let's say, an 8-minute mile on a road, right? You have to be able to check your ego at the door. The trail really kind of dictates what you're doing. You don't tell it what to do.
Yeah, and trail is an equalizer, right?
This is the craziest thing, that you can have people in wildly different pace groups, and when they're running on trail, they are so much more proximate on pace. And I think people are like, oh my gosh, I may be more conservatively paced. I don't want to go on trail and be even further behind. No, I tell you what, you're probably going to be closer than ever, because it really is an equalizer of a lot of different pace groups collapsing down to 1.
Key difference number 3 is muscle demands. So both trail running and road running build endurance, but they do it in wildly different ways. For road running, you have the repetitive movement pattern. So you have greater stress on your calves, on your quads, on the connective tissues because of that repetitive impact, and because we're dealing with that hard surface. Yeah. So the impact load is greater. Also in road running, you need efficient forward motion. And so it really works that because, when we are on a sidewalk, for example, we're not dodging rocks and roots.
Not a lot of lateral going on.
We're going straight forward. So exclusively staying in that plane of motion, it is pretty singular in that regard.
flipping that over to trail running, we have a lot more glute and hamstring activation. So if you want a power bubble, get on trail, right? Because you are going left, right, up and down. You're using both sides of your body a little bit more effectively. You are going to have absolutely increased ankle and hip stabilizer engagement. Your likelihood of needing to use, your ankles in dynamic ways is going to increase when you're on trail. And then, of course, that frequent uphill, downhill, muscle loading using both sides of your body. Again, I always say we're using all 6 sides of our core when we're trail running. When we are road running, we're really only using sheer force on one side primarily. The key takeaway here is that trail running is almost like strength training disguised as cardio. You might be sore in crazy, interesting ways. However, please, sweet baby Jesus, you still need to do strength training, right? Because that is what is going to allow you to be even more efficient. But you can see how trail and road kind of go together well. Key difference number 4 is all about mental flow. We've talked about this a little bit. Both let you kind of zone out and find flow, but you guessed it, in different ways. On road, you have this really predictable terrain. It's easier to lock into a pace, and you can almost get into this meditative state, breathe in, breathe out with so many footfalls, a little bit easier than, if things were more dynamic.
For trail running, you are constantly making decisions, right? You are always surveilling and reading the terrain, and you have to be making those decisions about where you're going to place your foot down. So like you said, it's a lot more mental effort to constantly be looking. But you can still find some level of flow. We're adjusting our effort on climbs and descents, which I think is really cool because it gives you more variety in your runs. Even for like a steady state run, you're still having to make these decisions and adjust your effort, your pace based on your effort, right? Your key takeaway on this one, if you want to dial in and really find flow, road is where it's at. But if you want to zen out, you guessed it, trail.
All right, final key difference, training adaptations. What the heck are the gains, right? Each surface develops completely different strengths, but they're still complementary. For road running, of course, running economy, right? We're moving in a predictable way, and we're likely going to be able to move a little bit faster and more efficiently. So our overall run economy can improve. As we've been saying, we can rock consistent pacing and zones. Sometimes road running, I think, especially in a flat area, is very similar as long as the temperatures and footing is fine to treadmill. I mean, it really can be. It can be so consistent. It's like a science experiment. And because of that, we can get some really great race-specific preparation, especially if you're racing on road, along with speed development, like we said. Like if you're able to dial in paces and execute your zones efficiently, you can really pick up some speed.
For our trail running, you're going to get a lot more of the strength, agility, balance, and power work when you're out on trails. Trails can help develop confidence on varied terrain, which I think is actually an advantage translating back to road,
Totally
right?
agree.
When you do have a curb or something in your way. It also develops resilience over changing conditions, which is so important no matter what surface you're running on.
The key takeaway here is that the best runners will often use both of these to maximize those gains. Road is going to help you build that efficiency and really kind of make you faster. And trail is going to give you that durability and just all-out athleticism. So there you have it. The 5 main ways that road and trail are completely different. But don't forget, they should be used in tandem. We hope to see you out on the road
or the trail.